Have you ever had a time where you were initiated into something and having been initiated, you felt different about yourself? It's almost like it gave you permission to take on a new stage of life. You know, we have in the ancient some cultures where you get initiated into womanhood or manhood, or maybe even get initiated after you leave home or get married. You can call that an initiation. And isn't it also true that once you get initiated, the nature of your actions tends to take a more mature role, tends to become more cleaner and more responsible? So this means you first go through an initiation, and after initiation, there's a certain recognition that you're now a responsible being, and you've simply stepped into a new stage of life. And Karma Yoga is like this. So Karma Yoga chapter 3, you may not realize, but because we all stepped into chapter 3, we are all have decided, knowingly or unknowingly, to take a vow, to take an initiation into taking a different nature of your actions. That means the nature of your actions has begun to already change. And how so? Well, we have basically started with inquiry that before initiation, what kind of actions do we perform? Well, random actions of all sorts of, niyatam karmas, for survival, for your playing your duties, but also for those that are not pleasant, but they give you a lot of satisfaction much later on. But before you get initiated, your actions, everyone's actions tend to be of two types. That means what's comfortable. Basically, what do I like personally for me, and what do I not like for me? So it's a very, tends to be a me-oriented nature of action. And this me-oriented is how we all start. And however, this me-oriented action needs to we need to step out of it eventually because it played its part. But if you really want to understand the nature of yourself and live a happy life, a fulfilling life, and bring the presence of Ishvara into your life, then you have to make certain calls to initiate yourself. And what Krishna says is this comfort, right, which is very easy for all of us to do what's easy and, what's really just generally familiar, right? So we like that familiarity. You have to start to see, what do you really want? Like, what is the real purpose of life? And is my life just worthy of kind of solving, day-to-day problems? Well, yes, it is, but there's much more to it, right? So the nature of your actions becomes one where you recognize that everything that happens to you, including this week that has happened and that will happen, is opening a door for you. And every time you walk through that door, you're able to see and learn new things. So everything, every transaction, every conversation, every engagement, right, of those that are close to you, and sometimes not so close to you, becomes your doorway to connecting deeper to yourself and to the presence of Ishvara. And this is what Karma Yoga is. It takes you away from this mechanical mode of thinking where it's just a cause-effect relationship. I do this and I get the result, and that's a done deal. It's a very mechanical, scientific-oriented approach, right? It's very dry in its nature. There's nothing there besides just transaction, and then you move on. So this has to, you start to bring more divinity into it. And unfortunately, we have, as much as our technology has risen and we have definitely gained more comforts than ever before, is our life necessarily happier than it was 50, 60, 100 years ago? Despite having comfortable chairs, massage chairs, warm home, AC, you got transport across the road, you got shops all around you. You don't have to take a horse 1 hour ride and get hijacked by Ratnakar, right? You have certainly all the connections there on your phone. You don't have to pay for a. Remember those phones? You have to go to the public and put a coin in there. Yeah, old times, right? Or turn that dial. Okay, even that was teaching us patience to wait for the little dial to come back to zero. But now we don't even have that patience training anymore. So a lot of things have gone, but is our life necessarily happier? No. Statistically, no, it is not. Based on scientific data, scientific research, it is not happier. In fact, we could say that we have, in fact, gone away from our foundation. And why this is will be covered in the verses, and you'll see why. But for now, I want to say that karma yoga is, right, knowing that your actions serve two purposes. It is for antahkarana shuddhi, having your mind expand. And why? For not for because it's comfortable, I want to be a good person in the world, but because it is necessary for ultimate understanding, understanding that you are one without a second. So now, so what karma yoga does is it brings you more to what's called Ishvara Srishti. Ishvara Srishti is an empirical world that is true. Okay, it's collectively shared. And the more you're closer to the empirical world, to what is, the more your loads are able to unload themselves. You feel lighter and you feel better about yourself, and you feel better about the very air that you breathe. It's not just air that you breathe, it is what you're breathing Ishvara. Okay, so you see, it's simple like that. So even though we need to go to the temple and light a candle in the church or offer something to the deity, the Lord that you're seeking is right here, right now, all around you, and you can relate to the Lord in so many ways. And this is the very nature of chapter 3. How do we relate to Krishna, which is the Lord of all things? And how do we bring more devotion into our life? How do we bring that sweetness so that it's not just intellectual knowledge, but you outwardly pour that knowledge outwards in the form of your contribution to the world? So this is what chapter 3 is about. Now, when it comes to bringing yourself closer to Ishvara Srishti, Srishti means creation, so it's Ishvara's creation. In verse 8, we stated that a thought comes first and then an action comes second. So now, when a thought comes, you have three choices. And you can, as we said, you can either do something with that thought, you can leave that thought alone, or that thought, you can do something different with it. So for instance, you see, we can look at this two ways. Suppose we have a general orientation that whatever happens, whenever an opportunity shows up to connect to a person, for instance, a stranger. Suppose you have this orientation where your dharma says to smile, just smile at the person that's passing by. But then what happens to that default program, that one of those three that you've been playing for a long time? Suppose one of those three is leave me alone. The thought is leave me alone. So dharma says smile to the stranger, but now due to your repetition, one of those three is leave me alone. So what happens? You don't smile. And you feel that inside you that you didn't have the courage to do what is to be done. Or a thought of someone that's hurt you comes into your mind. And you're trained to always do something with it, always ruminate on it. So every time someone from the past comes up, what happens? Out of those three, I always choose to ruminate. So this means that to the extent to how much you use these three in regards to various categories of life, to various thoughts, is the extent to how much free will you truly enjoy. So if every time I've succumbed to this mode of don't smile to the stranger, don't talk, don't talk, don't talk, don't talk, then you start to experience a certain limitation of life. And that limitation is not an empirical limitation. It's not an Ishvara Srishti limitation. What kind of limitation is that? It's a Jiva Srishti limitation. It's your own self-imposed limitation. Now, that's just one thought in reference to the stranger. Then in reference to sticking around and connecting long enough so you establish a proper connection, the Dharma says, no, stick around and build some rapport. But then the program says, no, do something different. So let me just, get this done deal and then, goodbye. I don't need to kind of engage with you further. So you add this up in reference to all sorts of thoughts in your life, and you have the quality of life that you're enjoying right now. So if the question were to be posed, what determines your life quality? Like practically speaking, what determines your daily life experience? Those three choices. Simple as that. Which of those three choices am I exercising right now towards this, then towards this, all the way from morning to evening? It's like that. So you can begin perhaps you might ask yourself, what of those three am I choosing to exercise right now? And what would happen? Could I explore if I were to maybe change one of those three options? So it's no longer leave me alone, but rather let me follow through. Or when some person comes into your mind, it's no longer let me ruminate. Maybe, just maybe, it's time to say, leave me alone. Because every time we ruminate, what do? It's like pouring water, and the plant just never dies. But you want the plant to die because you know logically you've resolved it. You've went through all sorts of situations. You've forgiven. You've prayed to the Lord. But still, the thought comes, you ruminate on it, and you think, no, because this thought has not gone, therefore it has not been resolved. It has been resolved. The nature of the mind is such that it doesn't let go of things until you start to let go of them, truly let go of them, truly deliberately replace the thought immediately with something else. I have one strategy that I've used for a long time, and that is when someone walks out of my life, I basically say to myself, Andre, you no longer have permission to entertain them. You have done all you could. You have definitely, the chapter is over. You don't have permission to bring them in your mind. There are people who deserve your attention. Give your attention to them. And I keep reminding myself, no, stop. You don't have permission to bring them into your mind. And then again, the mind just, especially if you've got a visual memory, it just constantly, right, appears in front of you. Stop. I don't have permission to entertain this. I've done all I could. So I encourage you, what would it be like if you were to begin, maybe as an experiment, thinking about in what ways could you own up to these three? In what ways could you discover that you do have these three? And how could your life change? From now on, when you catch yourself, I'm not saying you will always, whenever you catch yourself, before doing anything, say, stop. What can I do about this? Okay, thought has appeared. I've got three options. Do something different. Roll out a panorama of three qualities that you admire about them. That's do something different, or leave the thought alone. That is your choice. So that's the first initiation into Karma Yoga. You see? So Karma Yoga is a certain responsibility in reference to your mind. It's no longer just let all thoughts slide and let them just ruminate on them and don't worry about it and let it all just, form this, impression in you. It is, I have a responsibility. What will I do with this thought? Now, Krishna then continues and he says, towards what are these three specifically going into? And he calls them niyatam karma, which means those things which are to be done, duties that are to be done. And how many things are to be done? In fact, this is a really good teaching because it, from now on, answers, what do I do while living? What am I to do while living? And Krishna explicitly answers, and he says, niyatam karma. And he says the first niyatam karma is survival. This is the easiest because it's biological wisdom. You don't have to use your mind to feed yourself. It's just a biological wisdom built in. But you will notice because we have those three choices, we can even override biological wisdom, can't we? Not exercise, playing computer games for extended amount of time, not moving, and not feeding oneself the proper nutrition. So even that can be overridden. But suppose you follow that biological wisdom. What's the next one? It is in reference to you and your unique place in this world. You have roles to play. Everyone has a role to play according to your unique place and the family that you're surrounded by and the unique place and culture that you're born in. That is your unique place. So in reference to that, you have a certain 3 options, that duty of 3 options. And the last one is there are those actions which are not immediately gratifying, but they provide you a certain satisfaction and growth in the future. This is called self-transformation, self-growth. So if we were to ask a question, what do I do? What do I do today? What do I do tomorrow? The answer is like this, niyatam karma. What does this mean? 1, survival obligations. 2, duty obligations. 3, self-growth obligations. What do I do? 1, survival obligations. 2, duty obligations, your roles that you play obligations. 3, self-growth obligations. This is all that we are expected to do. You see, do animals have to be told this? Do you have to tell to a bird, hey, go and procreate, go and do this mating ritual? No. Why? Because birds or animals, they don't have the capacity to choose. They don't have those 3 options. They're programmed to do it anyway. Whereas when a human being is given those 3 options, you can override anything that is given to you by default. You can override your innate program of justice or your sense of non-hurt. You can override that. You can override generosity, which is a natural program. You can override empathy, which is a natural program. You can override survival-based duties, which is a natural program. You can override playing your roles and say, why should I? Which is a natural program. You can override self-transformation, which is a natural program. So animals don't have to be told because they're programmed by nature. But a human being, isn't it funny? A human being is more intelligent, and we have to be explicitly told what is to be done. Why? Because as intelligent as our brains are, it still has those 3 choices. And what do we default to before the initiation? Likes and dislikes, because it's easier and it's more comfortable. So that is why Krishna says you have to take an official clarion call to yourself. I'm now initiating myself into the stage of karma yoga, where it's no longer just doing things for the sake of me, but I am doing to contribute and give back to the world, because everything in the world gives back to itself. That's how the natural order is designed. So you're aligning yourself to Ishvara Srishti, to the natural way of things. And we will see how this helps you by bringing what's called yajna into our life. So now we're introducing a new concept called yajna or yajna, depends on how you pronounce it, just like some people pronounce Brahma or Brahman, doesn't matter. So let's see verse 9, how to bring devotion into your life through action. Verse 9, yajnarthat karmano nyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara.
A person is bound by karma if it is not done as yajna, that is, as an offering to Ishvara. For this reason, Kunteya, Arjuna, being one free from attachment, perform action for the sake of that.
The word is used yajna. Now, I just want you to put aside your knowledge of yajna. I know those from India have heard of this, but it's sometimes useful to relearn phrases, relearn definitions from the beginning. What is yajna? Okay, well, let's use a simple metaphor. Suppose someone that you admire is coming over to your house, and you honor them. They mean something to you a lot. They have a lot of meaning to you in your life, whoever it is, right? And you haven't seen them for a long time, and you're so excited they're coming over, and so you're going to cook them a lovely dish, a lovely dinner dish. Now, while you're cooking, what is your attitude, knowing that this dish is for them, someone that you admire? What is your attitude? Is it like yesterday when you were just cooking for just a quick cook? Or is it going to be a certain reverentiality a certain offering to them, a certain mindfulness throughout your cooking, a certain love imbued in your cooking.
Make sure we're making it to their taste.
Yes, yes. So this means you have them in your mind, don't you? You're careful about your actions. You're deliberate about your actions. You're acknowledging the presence of the one to whom you are offering. Okay. So what is yajna? Yajna literally means a Vedic ritual. But just to make this more relatable, it is any action that acknowledges the presence of Ishvara. Yajna has two types. The first one in Sanskrit is called Shrauta Yajna. Shrauta means it's more elaborate, such as Agnihotra, such as, it's more complex. You need a priest for this, such as throw the oblations in the center of the fire, never on the left or the right. There's 7 kinds of fires that you study. Some of them are blue, some of them are reddish, some of them are dancing. They have to be elaborate. So this is a complex form of yajna. However, in this chapter, we're not speaking of complex. We're speaking of what's called smarta. Smarta is simple. Simple yajna includes karma yoga, includes japa or chanting, includes prayer, and includes puja. So what yajna does is it helps you to remove this sense of isolation from your life, that I'm only cooking, I'm only offering for me. It makes you now understand I am connected. There's an interconnected order. And so it's never just for me, it is for the whole. There's an interconnection that is happening here, whether I see it or not. So it helps you to remove this artificial sense of isolation from your life and make you more connected to the presence of the Lord. That is yajna. And when you do that action, because you recognize the Lord is very important in my life, he is the one that unlocks the key. He's the one that gives moksha. You see, if you were the one that gives moksha, who would have not done it yesterday? So the fact that we have to wait, the fact that there's some invisible force that you have to wait to the point where that doubt, that last doubt of who am I and what is my place in this universe, that last doubt, can you just like that, flick your fingers and it goes away? Even if you want it with all of your heart right now, you still can't get rid of it. You see? So this means there has to be some invisible power that has the key. And that invisible power we call the Lord. When we have all of these technological advancements in this world and comforts, are we necessarily happier? The answer is no. Why? So let's get back to that original question. Why?
We're more isolated. We're more isolated from one another and from the world. Excellent. And definitely from Ishvara.
Okay. Okay, Leo?
Yeah, he already said it. I was going to say the other way around, but he's already said it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Got it.
Because pursuits are still the same. The human pursuits are still the same. They have not changed.
The human pursuits are still the same, just more, right? More forms, but they're all limited in nature, aren't they? Yeah.
I was just going to say that all pursuits are limited and you're searching for the unlimited. So you're never going to find it with the limited, the limited form and limited pursuits.
Another reason why we're not as happy, we lost a certain connection to something. Bobby had her hand up.
Because we're looking for it externally.
Yeah, good. So I'm heading towards that way. We're looking more and more externally out there for what we are inherently searching for, which cannot be found out there. That's much closer. Prerana?
So the mind is being occupied with multiple options and thoughts all the time. So you're basically not free in your mind and just being more busier than ever before. Also called as optional paralysis, where you just can't connect with the things which you would like to connect with.
Yeah, very good, Prerna. So she's talking about, in psychology, called paradox of choice. the more choice you have, you're supposed to be happier because you're supposed to know, hey, I've got freedom, but it's not the case. The more choice you have, you're actually more stressed out and confused. What's the best choice for me? So this is a huge reason today. Today, you have more choice than ever before, for sure. The answer is because we've lost connection to divinity. We've lost connection to the foundation, that core. It's like the tree that starts to lift itself up farther and farther. It starts to levitate above the ground. And the roots are dearly trying to hold on to the ground because their foundation, they draw their fulfillment from the ground, but the tree just keeps on elevating itself, elevating, farther and farther into higher things, into more technological advancements, into bigger and better things. But the roots just keep on holding. No, don't let me go. You see, something as simple as an ocean or the sunset, or sitting down and appreciating the waves in the ocean crashing against the rocks, and that sensation of that warm sand underneath your feet, or just touching the bark of the tree and feeling its texture, and smelling the ground, the soil after it rains, or the seaweeds, and that the basic, the small things in life that we could appreciate, they're no longer those things that touch you anymore, because the person has, for such a long time gotten into bigger and better and loftier things, that we lose basic connection to nature, basic connection to a flower. Now it's just a flower. Let me just pass by a flower, put it in my garden for aesthetical reasons, right? To impress the neighbors. So small things become less and less appreciated. Why? Because the more we farther away go from nature, from those simple things, the more we get into mode of isolation. So what yajna does is it reconnects you back to the ground. It reconnects you to your roots. And that is what ultimately everyone is searching. Because no matter what you get in life, that unless you have that connection to your roots, to your intrinsic roots of yourself, Ishvara, then no matter what happens, there will always be that something is missing. Like Chandogya Upanishad, chapter 7, when Narada, he was very educated and he learned dozens of various fields of knowledge, and he knew about astronomy, geography, history, all about psychology, all about science. He knew all of these fields. And you're supposed to be happy, right? If you know so much. You're the greatest physicist, scientist, historian, archaeologist the world's ever seen. You can have any debates about anyone, towards anything. You can draw facts. You're above AI. You're really skilled in your knowledge. So that was Narada. He would even beat AI nowadays. And he goes to his teacher, Sanat Kumara, and he says, "Teacher, I know so much about everything, and I'm very educated, but in me there's a thorn, and I can't get rid of it. How is this possible? I have all the knowledge in the world. It's called aparavidya, knowledge about things, but I'm still not fulfilled." And Sanat Kumara tells him, because the knowledge that you have is by nature always limited. Even if you know so much, you only know a fraction. And what's called your knowledge, aparavidya, is ultimately called ignorance. Why? Because whatever you know, there's always more that you don't know. Whatever you know, there's always going to be more that you don't know. So all of your knowing has only produced a recognition of your not knowing. Where's the fulfillment in that? So Sanat Kumara teaches him his roots, his connection to himself, the knowledge of Ishvara. And he finally gains fulfillment, and he realizes, this is what I've been searching for. So yajna is that stepping stone to connect you to your roots.
Yeah, it's reminding me of the character Arjuna when he initiated, like he asked this question, why I'm still sad and depressed, though he was the best archer in the world, a king and married, and I think he has all the skill set of a warrior, but he was still disconnected with his own self, and that's why Bhagavad Gita was revealed to him. Like, it's just reminding me of that chapter which we did.
Yeah, true. True. Arjuna was in the same position. He just had a different skill set. He had brothers and he had a kingdom. He was a prince. He had divine weapons. And you know, he had successful brothers, but still he was smart enough to see that there's a limitation to all of this. So now yajna helps you bring, therefore, your aparavidya, your knowledge of things, your knowledge about interconnectedness, your knowledge of Ishvara. All of that remains aparavidya, intellectual knowledge, until you start to strengthen it. And so it becomes, you know, integrated. And that strengthening process is what yajna is for. So what does yajna do? It strengthens your knowledge of interconnectedness through physical expression. It strengthens your knowledge of what is the truth through physical expression, such as, I use the example, if you love someone in your family and they're nearby, but you never show it, you never say, you never do a gesture to demonstrate it in some way, what's going to happen eventually? You're going to start doubting yourself. Do I really love her? Because I keep on saying to myself, I love her, I love her, I love her, but I never say it, I never show it, I never take her out, I never do anything for her. Do I really love her? You start to doubt yourself because your intellectual knowledge has no avenue through which it can express itself. You see? So animals do this naturally because they are connected to Ishvara Srishti. We humans have to be told, if you want to strengthen your knowledge, it has to come through certain physical means. And that is what yajna is for. Okay. Now, you're going to ask me, what are examples of yajna? This will be in the next verse. But before we get there, there's one statement that Krishna says here. And he says, perform, from the verse, perform action for the sake of yajna. So listen to this. Perform action. This is a direct instruction. Perform your actions from now on for the sake of yajna. What is he really saying here? What else could he be saying? How could you rephrase this?
Offering every action to the divinity.
Karma yoga.
Be mindful.
Perform actions because that is what is required to be done, not why it is going to yield the result, not for the result.
Perform action to be part of the laws of the universe.
I think just seeing divinity in everything, not thinking of yourself or anyone else as separate, and you're performing the action as one.
Good. Excellent. That's what I'm looking for. Anything else you want to say, Pankaj?
Perform actions just for the sake of doing the action.
Perform action for the sake of deepening your connection to Ishvara. Perform action for the sake of reconnecting to that which matters most. Perform action for the sake of deepening your strength to that which you are looking for the only thing that truly matters, your fulfillment. Because we just earlier on said, if I perform action for the sake of, an object, that object is time-bound. It will only give you time-bound fulfillment, time-bound happiness. So I perform action for the sake of strengthening my connection to all that is here. Why would you do that? That's the next part of the question.
I always think when I'm at work, helping others is no different to helping yourself.
Good.
Everybody has the same desire to be loved, to receive love, to give love, to be treated fairly. So treating yourself, obviously you want to be treated fairly. You recognize the same need in other people, and everybody has that need.
Also, you begin to understand that you are part of the whole, that it's not just you, it's the whole thing. And meanwhile, while that's happening as a bonus, you create harmony.
Beautiful. In other words, you shake up the sense of individuality. Me, 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 me. As we said before the initiation. So perform actions for the sake of yajna, for the sake of shaking up the sense of individuality, the very thing you want to get rid of yourself from. Because where is limitation? What's the locus of limitation? It's in the individual. As long as there's an individual and I think I'm this individual, limitation is true for me. So perform action for the sake of shaking up this reinforced individual so that you may come to see your nature as the limitless one. And then he continues, he says, one free from attachment. Hey, Arjuna, being one free from attachment, perform action for the sake of that yajna. So one free from attachment. What is Krishna asking here? One free from innate attachment, such as generosity. Do you want to be free from generosity? Do you want to be free from empathy? It's innate. This is Ishvara Srishti. Do you want to be free from the need for survival? Do you want to be from the need to stay healthy? No. So one free from attachment. What kind of attachment is he talking about then?
Attachment to an expectation of results from actions that you did selfishly or carelessly.
Okay. What else could be saying? One free from attachment. So we now know what he's not talking about. You don't want to free yourself from attachment of love and care and generosity and empathy and compassion. These are natural Ishvara Srishti attachments. If I tell to a mother, hey, be free from attachment, what's the mother going to think if she takes literally, okay, I don't care about my son, just, feed and do my own thing? That's not possible. It's inbuilt. So Krishna here is saying that freedom from unnatural attachments, Jiva Srishti attachments, freedom from unnatural love. In fact, the word love and attachment are exactly the same in this context. So look at this. Suppose you have love for someone, and now you start to, that's natural. That means you care for them. You're naturally attached. So when you're naturally attached to something, what does this mean? You say, I love them. Why? Because can love be without attachment? Love and attachment, they are like this. You can say whatever you want. When you truly love something, you have attachment for it. So suppose you have love for something, and then suddenly you have fear of its loss. What happens now to that love? It becomes unnatural love. That means I'm invested in this thing being in my life. And if I lose it, I will lose something. So I'm not going to set boundaries because I fear you're going to walk away from me. Is that natural attachment now? Is that natural love? It now becomes unnatural love. So the moment we start to distort natural attachment or love, it becomes unnatural detachment, unnatural love. So when Krishna says one free from attachment, what is he saying? One who is free from unnatural love. Freedom from the need to hold on, to cling on, because I fear you're going to leave. That's when a person's love becomes a form of manipulation. That is not natural anymore. So we can appreciate when Krishna says words like this, you have to use your discernment and say, he's not talking about intrinsic love, intrinsic attachment. He's talking about intrinsic attachment or love contaminated by my ideas. Freedom from that.
I guess that my question is then, you mentioned love and attachment, they just go together usually, right? For most of us. So how do you love someone then without, like, how do you practically break that attachment if you love someone or love something?
See, this is
and not get that fear.
Yeah, see, this is the very thing that it's a very valid question, because we're often taught that you can love something without having any form of attachment. So I challenge you now to start to re-examine this idea. In your own experience, can you truly care about something, love something, spend time with something, give attention to something? Does that not imply you have a certain level of healthy attachment to that? So now,
yes,
right? So now the question is, can I really love something without being attached? You could say that, but you have to understand what that not attached means. I can love something without being unnaturally attached to it. That means not clinging onto it, thinking that I need it for my survival, or I kind of start to put pressure on it. It has to be in accordance to my expectations. That is unnatural attachment. But if I love you with natural attachment, that means I love you, I care for you, but I also give you space for you to grow in your own way, because that is exactly what you need from me. That's exactly what I need from you. So I want you to question, when I love something, when you love something, can you truly be detached from it? And is
it doesn't seem like it. That's what, because I feel like there's always that fear of loss, like whether it's your parents or, your kids or your pets or whatever. Like if you love someone or something so much, that fear of loss just kind of coexists with it always.
Good.
It's
Now,
hard to just separate that,
now
at
look
least
at-
for me.
Now look at this, Sharmali. If you didn't have natural fear, what's called Ishwara Srishti fear, if you didn't have that natural fear, would you still live? If you didn't have fear of being run over by the car or of a tiger, you just walk into the cage. I've got no natural fear. Would you still live?
No.
No. Natural fear is that, am I supposed to detach myself from the fear of the lion?
No.
No. But what am I then supposed to detach myself? Or when they say be free from detachment of fear, what kind of fear? Unnatural fear. That means when I start to take this person and I turn them into something they're not, I give them extra meaning, put them on a pedestal, right? From that, I need to detach from, because whom does that hurt? It hurts you. It doesn't give you the space to be yourself, and it constantly makes you concerned unnaturally about the other's well-being. But in truth, their well-being is taken care of by Ishvara as much as your well-being is. If you were to die, they would still continue living completely fine. And it will be the same on the other side too. So unnatural fear is when I start to think the other needs me. I can't live without the other. My life will be nothing without the other. And you start to forget, wait, I am always taken care of by the hands of Ishvara. And I always was. Just that little reminder brings you back from Jiva Srishti, love or attachment or fear, into Ishvara Srishti, love, attachment or fear. So you're allowed to be attached. You're allowed to be attached to things that you love. So now if a person starts to tell you, especially if they're in a position of authority, be detached, be detached, be detached, but your experience is totally different in real life, that you can't truly love something unless you're attached to it at some point, and you will fear its loss, like your parent and your partner leaving you. And you're having this conflicting message. I'm supposed to love them. I'm not supposed to be attached. Don't be attached, but love them. And you're losing your mind. What am I supposed to do? So what Krishna is saying here is, where there's attachment, that's exactly where love is. Where there's love, that's exactly where attachment is. And this is a relief to hear, because now you say there's nothing wrong with me. I thought something was wrong with me. All these wise, so-called wise people telling me don't be detached, 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 detached. Detached from what? They're right to say detached, but they're saying detached from unnatural love, unnatural value attribution, unnatural attachment. What's called catastrophizing. It's going to be so bad. I'm going to lose them. My life is going to be over. I'll be nobody. That's not true. The truth is you will remain composed. The truth is you can survive without them or it, because you're always taken care of by the hands of the Lord. And that's a fact. Okay, Lorena.
I was just going to say, to add, I think ownership comes into that. So people mistake love for ownership. If I love you, I somehow own you, or some kind of control over. They get mixed up with what love actually is.
Yeah.
So I think that comes into it, that sense of ownership. Whereas love doesn't have ownership.
Good. Now look at this. I love the Lord, but I'm not attached to the Lord. What kind of love is that? If all there is here is one Lord, I love the Lord, but I'm not attached to the Lord. Can you see the contradiction? Ishvara is all that is. I love Ishvara, but I'm not attached to Ishvara. The point is, you're not apart from Ishvara. So how can you be not attached to Ishvara? The person that you love is nothing but Ishvara. I love Ishvara in the form of that person. Therefore, I have to be naturally attached to Ishvara, because when are you ever outside Ishvara's order? Never. Where there is love, there is attachment. What kind of attachment? Healthy attachment.
Yeah, there's a love that Dhritarashtra possessed for Duryodhan. And there's the same type of love that Drona possessed for Ashwatthama.
Okay.
So there's what Lord Krishna says, that you have to make a distinction between prem and moh. Basically, if I'm right, he means that you should not be so possessive about it.
Okay.
So the attachment that we are saying, the synonym could be extra possessive.
Okay.
You can still love him. Don't be very possessive. Don't own it, like what's Lorena saying.
Now, let's look at some forms of yajna, or ways to acknowledge Ishvara in your life. So let's get more practical now in the next verse. So verse 10, we'll talk about the indispensability of bringing yajna into your life. Verse 10, Saha yajnav prajav srishtva purovacha prajapatihi anena prasavishyadvam eshavostishtakama dukha.
In the beginning, the Creator, having created human beings along with Yajna, said, by this Yajna shall you multiply. May this Yajna be a wish-fulfilling cow for you.
So this verse sounds a little bit cryptic, so let's decipher it. So the important part is the Creator having created human beings along with Yajna. So Creator here is the name Brahma, with the long A, Brahma, sometimes Brahmaji. So it says the Creator, Brahma, created human beings with Yajna. That means created thinking beings along with Yajna. So what does this imply? If the Creator created human beings along with Yajna, then they're inseparable. That means Yajna is inseparable from human existence, because yajna is necessary for your survival. Now we can use the word yajna into a little more literal definition, ritual. What kind of rituals do we have? Let's just some examples. Marriage ritual, right? Is that a ritual? Dating, is that a ritual? Absolutely, that's a ritual. Do you just go up to the person, and say, hey, I like you, come over, let's have children? Is it that quick? No, it requires a certain dating process, okay? And it's not easy, it's not fast, it requires a certain art. Prenatal rights, there's a discussion before having a child. What kind of are we ready for this? Do we have the finances? What kind of a child do we want? So yajna is built for human being survival. And it has to be explicitly pointed out because we're given those three choices. That means we can reject. That's why we have to be pointed out. Unlike animals, an animal cannot reject yajna. Animals are actually the perfect example of yajnas 24/7. They're just always doing what they have to do, what they're supposed to do, because they're a natural program. There's a nice bird called the bird of paradise. It's a male bird of paradise, a male version. Now, for the bird of paradise to find a female partner, it has to perform a colorful, elaborate dance. So what it does is it spreads its wings like this, okay, like this, and it circles by a certain dance, shakes, right? And flapping its colorful wings, elaborate dance. And the female is just watching, watching the male. Why is the bird doing this? To annoy the female? No. The bird is doing this to attract the female. Now, hopefully, while the male bird is doing the elaborate, colorful dance and a certain rhythmic dance, he will press some buttons in her brain. Suppose he doesn't press the buttons in her brain. Does the bird walk away depressed, with its head down, ready to tie a rope around its neck? No. Does the bird, call the female now in his head? He says, what a mentally deficient, overcooked, dehydrated bird, just missed the greatest opportunity ever. She was an ugly one anyway. I don't want her anyway. What does the bird do? Tomorrow it returns for round 2 to get a knockout. It could either get a knockout if it fails the second time, or it could get a knockout bird if it does a really good job. So it's built in. In the animal world, these rituals are built in. Now, is it not true that this ritual makes the bird species survive, at least the bird of paradise? Suppose it didn't do this. Would you have any birds left? No. Same thing with us. We are by nature ritual performance, whether you see it or not. That is how we survive. Now, there are some rituals that I want to show you that are from the Vedas, and they're called samskaras, but I will put them under the category of yajna. Why? Because we said yajna is any action that acknowledges the presence of Ishvara. So samskaras are also in that category. So the first one is called Garbhadhana, which is very simple, a baby making ceremony. You see, in the Vedic times, a male and a female didn't just kind of go for it, right? Before they wanted a child. They sat down and they decided, we want a child, and they engaged in a prayer. Why? Because you're about to bring a jiva into your family. You don't know who this jiva is. You don't know what kind of samskaras they're going to carry over. You don't know what kind of, life they've lived. They could be a criminal for all you know. So you are literally bringing a jiva into your family. Is it not reasonable to assume you would want the best kind of jiva in your family? Smart, discerning, that's going to add honor to the family. Therefore, you engage in a prayer. Lord, help us to attract a competent, dharmic jiva with skills and talents who's going to add glory into our family. Jata karma is when a baby does get born, and it's called a baby initiation. It's like a little welcome party for the baby. And here you draw an om with honey on the baby's tongue, and then you draw a little, the father chants a mantra in the baby's ear. And then we have Namakarana. Namakarana is a naming ceremony. So on the 11th of the 12th day, you will, according to the birth star of the baby, you will give it a name. And then by the time the child is 8 to 16, Upanayana. And this is where between 8 and 16, we chant the Om Bhurbhuva Svaha Tatsavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. And this is their initiation into the Gayatri mantra. And they get what's called a sacred thread. There's 3 threads from the top shoulder to the hip. And here, why from the top? Because it represents I'm going to receive the knowledge. So whenever you look here, it reminds you, I'm always receiving knowledge from the scriptures and the guru. And it goes to the lower right hip. And that says, I'm going to, whatever I receive, offer back with a sense of duty, a sense of responsibility. So I'm both a receiver and I am a giver. And why 3 threads? Because you being given this mind, you have 3 debts to give back to the world. Nothing comes for free, by the way. The first one is debt to Ishvara. That means you need to acknowledge the presence of your creator, of Ishvara. The second one is you have a debt to your ancestors. Do you know how much work your ancestors put, and my ancestors, for us to be here? We have no clue. We don't know what they've been through. We don't know how much sacrifices they've gone through and how much money they've given to, to take care of their children who gave birth to your parents. Your parents gave birth to you. So we have a certain acknowledgement. We have to acknowledge our great, great, great grandmother and grandfather generations back. You may not know them. And the third depth is to the rishis, because without the rishis, the seers, we would not be having this conversation. There will be no such thing as truth. It will just be non-standardized ideas. What's truth? I don't know. But we do have a certain standard to Ishvara, to ancestors, and to the rishis. And they also get a begging bowl to learn humility, what it means to be on the street with nothing, and now you have to get something from nothing. That teaches you humility, and that's an amazing way to initiate our children. Now, we don't have that anymore, do we?
Yes.
We do have that.
Most of these are done. Upnayan has become less, but the first one, putting a mantra, that is also very much there. Namkaran is absolutely everywhere. Upnayan has become less. But then I want to add one more. There's one beautiful ceremony in south of India, especially in Telangana, Andhra, where the first periods of the girl is celebrated. It is being welcomed from her childhood to adulthood for a woman. So, earlier on, it used to be celebrated. Now it has, somehow become a little shameful that her periods have come all across, even in India. But earlier times, it was a matter of celebration, welcoming her into the womanhood.
Yeah, that's exactly that initiation that we're speaking of. It's amazing. Okay. And then we have Vivaha. Vivaha is the marriage. It's actually it's a Vedic concept also. It's not a man-made thing. So marriage is, for the most part, it is a spiritual gathering of two people, and they're supposed to grow spiritually together. Now, in the Vedic, ceremony of Vivaha, there are 7 vows, but I call them 7 reasons why marriage is helpful, why it's beneficial to you. And by remembering these 7 vows, you remember 7 reasons why am I in this marriage. And they are very interesting because they're universally applicable. The first reason is for nourishment. Nourishment means that, I'm here to care for the other partner, to provide emotional support, and for them to equally provide emotional support for me so that I can work out my stuff and they can work out their stuff. That's the first reason why to be married. The second reason is for strength. You see, you need physical strength, you need mental strength and emotional strength, but they also need those 3 strengths. So by being in marriage, let us work together to build our strength together. So we develop resilience, emotional, and both intellectual. The third one is wealth. So by us being together, let us develop a wealth in our family so that we work less and we're able to enjoy more. Let us develop that resources together. And then let us have more happiness. The fourth reason, let us, be each other's accomplice to bring more joy into each other's life. And we have to work together to discover how can we go about doing that within the confines of Dharma. By her taking him out and him taking her out to special places, you can use that together to appreciate the nature and reconnect to your roots, Ishvara. The fifth reason to be married is for children. Let us raise dharmic kids to contribute back into the world and to add more, flavor and so that we can direct our duties to a higher purpose. The sixth reason is for health. Let us remind each other to stay healthy, to stay fit, to stay nutritiously fed well throughout this journey of life. And finally, the seventh reason, let us have a lifelong companionship, a lifelong friendship together. That means let's always be there for each other when nobody else is there for each other. So that's 7 reasons that they take, 7 steps, 7 reasons why we need to remember, every once in a while, that will make us and help us be together. The moment one of these reasons start to fade out, there's less reason to stay in the marriage. 5 reasons fade out. Now you're holding dearly for dear life on only 2 reasons. More reasons to go. And finally, the 1 reason left, well, that's as good as a divorce paper. So that's a very nice way to look at marriage. Now, in the Vedic times, actually, it was a little bit different, is that the wife was there to help the husband perform yajnas, such as the Agnihotra. Now, we don't have to do that anymore, because we have, different ways of, comforts and attaining things. So now you can convert that into, let's be together for active co-creation. That means let's have a goal together, a vision together, and let's pursue that vision on our trajectory to our final breath. So that is, so the principle is exactly the same.
Actually, it still happens. Even we got married. We have to walk around the fire 7 times. And each time we have to there's a mantra we have to say, and it still happens in all the Hindu weddings. I don't know other parts of the world, but I'm sure India and Malaysia, we still do that ceremony. In fact, even the toe ceremony, there's a, your ring is put on a toe. So it's all, like you say, there's so much of Vedic meaning to it.
Yeah. And it's all, and it becomes so much more effective when you actually know why you're taking these 7 steps. Last time I went with Rani to Malaysia, I asked one of the people, it was an Indian wedding, why do you guys have all these idols? And, what does this mean? What does this mean? Nobody could tell me. And I was surprised. I thought if you're at the wedding, you're supposed to know. But then I got really curious and I wanted to find out for myself. So I got into research, and so now, that's 7 steps. It's very beautiful to hear. Antyeshti is the going away ceremony. So when somebody dies that you love, there's the sun will put sesame seeds and water either in the person's hand or on their body, or sometimes in their mouth. It depends on the family tradition. Now, the sesame seeds, they represent longevity. So in other words, you're saying that may this jiva, prolong their journey into something that's going to be well for them. Let them be, well journey. Let them have a long, good journey, wherever that is. And water represents surrender or release. So may this jiva who left the body, may they have release from all of their papams and from all of their confusions and from all of their, sins they have incurred while alive. And here you will chant Om Trayambakaya Jamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarukamiva Bantanat Mukshiyam Mamrtat. Okay, so every one of them has a certain mantra attached and a certain ritual attached also. Sandhya Vandana. This is prayer time. This is where you chant 3 times a day, Gayatri Mantra, in the morning, noon, and the evening. Why? To reconnect with your roots, reconnect with Ishvara. So this is, and why 3 times? Because you know how your day is. You get through all sorts of things, you get very busy, and you remind yourself 3 times a day, no, this is my time to reconnect with what matters most. Sandhya Vandana. And then Deva Yajna. This is God worship. And this is also beautiful. Deva Yajna is a 5-step process where you have an idol like this. Can you see? Beautiful. So whatever it is, it could be Vishnu or Krishna or Shiva. And you have an idol and you bathe the idol, you dress the idol, you put the idol to sleep, you put certain flowers on the idol. Now, why would you do this? Why are you doing this? Because that idol has meaning to you. It reconnects you to the presence of Ishvara. Just like a flag of a country. When you look at a flag of a country, it represents the entire country. When you look at an idol, it represents Ishvara. It is a way for the concrete mind to relate to something. So in this way, you bathe, you feed the idol, and you have a relationship with idol. Now, if you don't do this, what will you feed, bathe, and have a relationship with? Past figures who have long gone out of your life. People who have hurt me, who have said this, who have said that, and they keep on. So if you don't give your mind something to engage with, then your mind will come up with something for you. And it will most likely be something that you've already entertained thousands of times. So you might as well start entertaining something that reconnects you to your roots. And then Bhuta Yajna. Bhuta Yajna is creature care. And this is where you say, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Badrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet. In other words, may all beings be, taken care of. May there be no harm. Let all be free from suffering. In other words, you're acknowledging the right of all beings to live. And this can go as far as becoming a vegetarian, to, as an honor to, save the animals. It can go a long way. It can make you treat plants more, other human beings. So you become very sensitive to Ishvara's order through these yajnas. Then Krishna follows up and he says, may this yajna thus be your wish fulfiller, wish fulfilling cow. In other words, now that you're bringing devotion into your life and you're connecting to the Lord, may through this process, your mind purify, become a better thinker, become a better exerciser of your three powers, to think, to do, and to desire. Kriya Shakti, Jnana Shakti, and Icha Shakti. May they be used wisely so that I can bring those things that matter to me in my life. Such as the king who got the boon, the yajna, through a yajna, to convert anything to gold. The king was ecstatic. That's what the king wants power. And he was so into it that he started to turn everything to gold. And then his daughter finally saw him, ran over, so innocent, wanted to hug his father. And he touched her, and she too turned into gold. And then he realized that is an irresponsible use of yajna. So therefore, being given these three capacities, use them responsibly. And that will become your kama dhenu, your wish-fulfilling cow. What is the main purpose of yajna?
To reconnect or to stay connected with Ishvara.
Connect with yourself.
Freedom from unnatural love.
Doing good for everyone, for the whole network, not only for yourself.
To reorganize to your original geometry of being a human.
And why is it important to reorganize again and again?
Because desires keep coming.
Desires keep
your raga dvesha keeps emerging.
Yeah.
Doesn't stop.
It's easy to be unnatural, maybe that's why.
It's much easier to succumb to unnatural means of connecting to technology and social media and entertainment and Netflix than it is to Ishvara, because we don't see Ishvara. So it's much easier to connect to what we see, to what gives you instant gratification. So you have to fight that urge, because that's what the media has taught you. That's what the society has taught you. So you have to fight that urge initially until it becomes so pleasing to reconnect and appreciate the very air you're breathing is the Lord. The very time, Kala Deva, as we will speak about Devas coming up, is the Lord. So you start to relate with the Lord through different manifestations that are all around you, that are supporting you right now.
I have a feeling that if something has to succeed, whatever you're doing, then the yajna bhav automatically comes into you. Suppose you are doing a big event, something very big, at a national level, international level, or at society level. It is something big. And if God desires it to succeed, then it automatically brings a feeling of yajna that when you do into you. So sometimes it precedes success. I mean, that is my experience. I'm not saying to theory, but this is my experience. You do something big, then your feelings change. You want to do it for the good of everyone. You want to do it. You have yourself vanishes. Your individual self vanishes. And then that work succeeds beyond your expectations because God has come into it. But sometimes it is predestined, preordinated. It is not your own wish. If I want to get the yajna feeling on my own, I may not get it.
Yeah. So when you remove that I have to be in control, I have to kind of achieve here. When you just get rid of that for a moment, you'll be surprised how this instrument can just take over and bring out amazing words, amazing poetry, amazing actions, amazing thoughts. They just start to flow out of your mind. So just a matter of removing this I, that wants to always be in control. And yajna helps you to relinquish, to shake up that concrete self, that individual self. Now, the concept of deities is going to be introduced. And we will then connect this to verse 11. Devan bhavayatanena te deva bhavayantuvaha parasparam bhavayantaha shreyaf param avapsyata.
Propitiate the deities with this yajna. May those deities propitiate you. Propitiating one another, you shall gain the highest good, moksha.
Okay, so propitiate the deities with this yajna. So another word is being introduced, the word deva or deity. So think of deity as anything that provides for you, anything that helps you, anything that benefits you, that is a deity. So take trees, for instance. Trees could now be called deities. Why? Because they give you oxygen. So now it says here, if you don't acknowledge these deities, these things, these forces of nature that provide for you, what will happen? Well, they will keep on providing for you, but your relationship to them, to manifestations of Ishvara, will be as good as dry. It's just a tree, it's just a cloud, it's just the sun, it's just the rain, it's just time. In other words, you will start to not only take it for granted, but also your life will become very dry and meaningless, because now it's just kind of mechanical laws. There's just laws and wind and space and time, and that's all there is. But if you turn space and time, now Varuna Deva, right? Kala Deva, Akasha Deva, Vayu Deva, Apaha Deva, or Agni Deva, you turn them into devas as though they are alive entities. How does your relationship now change to those things that benefit you?
Everything's interconnected and everything has its purpose. It may not necessarily please you, but it has its purpose in the scheme of the grand order.
You see, so the Vedas wants to help you relate to these forces of nature, not as mechanical laws, but as forces that are alive, forces that are serving and helping you all the time. And it says here, these very forces are taking care of you. And what Krishna is advising is for your acknowledgement. That is your part to play. You have to acknowledge them. If they are alive beings, does that not stand to reason? You have to acknowledge and be grateful to what they're giving you. Suppose Ishvara is giving you life and memory and a heartbeat, and Ishvara holds the key to moksha, and I never acknowledge Ishvara. I just say, I want moksha, I want Brahman, I want Brahman, I want Brahman, I want Brahman. But I never acknowledge the one who has the key that's going to remove those doubts from my mind. Why should that one give me what I want? Suppose you have the key to a door, right? And I need to get through the door. You're a bouncer. And I want to get in. And inside is a treasure. It's a matter of life or death. You need that, whatever is inside. And I totally don't acknowledge you. I just say, just let me in. No, who are you? Who are you, little person? Just let me in. You're not important. What I need is inside. That inside is much more important than you or me. And you got limitless strength, limitless power. Should you let me in? What kind of an order would that be? There will be no order. Ishvara can't violate his own order. Ishvara has to be recognized, you have to have a relationship with the Lord. And through that relationship, he lets you in, he gives you the key. Therefore,
Andre.
Yes, hold on. So the verse says, take care of these deities. Take care of those things that you depend on, and those things that you depend on will take care of you. According to the verse, he says, propitiate the deities, and those deities will propitiate you. Now, does the tree and the air and the space really need you? Do they really need you? No, tomorrow you go, air continues, fire continues, trees continue, everything continues like normal. So then why does Krishna say propitiate those deities? offer your gratitude to those deities, to those things that you depend on, and those things that you depend on will in turn give back to you. They will bless your life. For whose sake are you then propitiating? For their sake, for the deity's sake, or for your sake? For your sake. Now, when you propitiate, what does that do for you? How exactly does that change you when you acknowledge the things that you depend on, you need for your survival? How does that change your relationship to yourself and to the whole? How do you see yourself then?
Dependent, connected.
Connected. In other words, it removes your sense of isolation. It minimizes that I am an isolated human being. Isn't today the number one problem, more than ever before, a sense of isolation? Which is so strange. Social media is supposed to connect people. The world is more full of people than ever before, 8 billion. Communities are all over the place, and yet people feel more isolated than ever before, because I see these forces of nature as just impersonal forces of nature. What Krishna says is, convert forces of nature into a sense of gratitude. Have gratitude for them. Have reverentiality for them. See them as various aspects of Ishvara, which are always providing for you. And as Gautam said, it makes you more connected, more deliberate, and it makes you a contributor. And then the verse says, and that is, you shall gain the highest good. Doing that, you shall gain the highest good, because it shakes your sense of individuality. As long as there's an individual, you cannot have the highest good. You remain as a limited single I. So yajna shakes up that me, and it makes you connected to the very key maker, the one who sets you free.
Andre, I just wanted to add that you have to do offering, and then only the Lord comes, or you have to acknowledge His presence, then only the Lord comes. It's very evident in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, when Arjun was cribbing all this while, and the Lord was only listening. He didn't say anything until up to the 10th verse of chapter 2, when he said, "Please help me." When he asked for it personally, and he called for it.
Yes.
That is one. Second was when Draupadi's Chirharan was derobing was happening, and after that the Lord went and met her, and she said, "Why didn't you intervene earlier?" He said, "You never asked for my intervention. When you asked, I was there."
Yeah.
So in both the times, neither Arjun asked before the second chapter, nor Draupadi asked before she asked.
Yeah. So the forces of nature are always listening to you. You just have to engage with them, and they will start to bless your life. How do you cultivate gratitude towards things that you take for granted?
By realizing how dependent you are on those things, like you just mentioned.
Brilliant. Aren't you not dependent all the time on everything and everyone in your ancestors and Ishvara's order and the scriptures? Brilliant. Remember that you are totally dependent on everyone here for your existence. Next week, we will talk about what makes you a thief, and we will see what is your gauge, whether you're a thief or not. Purnamadav, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamudachyate, Purnasya, Purnabadaya, Purnameva Avashishyate. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.